Hey guys, Brian Castro here from Better Chess Training, and in today's video, typically the last few couple months, I've been doing tactics videos on Fridays, but I'm going to mix it up a little. It's not that I'm not going to do those tactics problems, but I think I don't want you to get bored with them. So in this particular game, in this video, I'm going to be playing a standard game. The time control here is 25 minutes per side. And what I've noticed in playing these games is that sometimes I get a little focused on I get a little too focused, I guess, on trying to comment a lot instead of um, focusing on my moves. So that's what I'm going to try to do is just focus on my moves and make all of the commentary very relevant to um, to the game itself, and not as much extraneous commentary because I want to make the best use of my time. Also, in this particular game, what I'm going to be doing is trying to play a little more deliberately and in my own, I guess you could say, attempts to improve myself. One of the things I'm going to be focusing on is really identifying a principal variation that I'm calculating. So with that in mind, we're looking here. This is the French defense advanced variation, and this is a line from my repertoire that I play. And so far, so good. The general idea here is that I'm going to be developing on my rook here to the C file. There is no increment here also, so I have to be careful here. So right now I'm still kind of in the general opening theory, so I won't be making too much commentary in terms of specific lines that I'm thinking about until I am, I guess, in new territory here. Okay, and B4 comes out, of course, threatening something like um, B5, but not anything I need to worry about too aggressively yet. Okay, so here, typically bishop to E7 is an idea with the idea of castling. Now, in the French defense, especially in like the advanced variation, we have to be careful because white can develop his bishop to D3 and attack down this line. In this case, I'm going to continue my development here with rook to C8. And then if you play something like B5, then I have a few options. I could play here to A5 with the idea of maybe playing B6 later. Okay? Some lines of this variation, the queen comes out to B6 also, and that's always an option too. But one of the strategies of my opening repertoire that I've worked with my coach, Grandmaster Nigel Davies, on is picking lines that are instructive but not necessarily the, I guess, the most popular lines. And that way, we could save some of the time from studying the theory of these lines and more on studying other aspects of chess like strategy and the end game, which I have done. Okay, bishop to E3. It's played by my opponent. And a couple choices here. Do I want to take here on E3? Sometimes I do. And so that's going to be a consideration. But I don't think I have to do it yet. The one reason why he might be doing this is he might be thinking of moving his queen or this knight, so he wants to make sure he has enough defenders here. But I'm going to go ahead and play bishop to e7. And I can take this later maybe. And if I don't take it, see, right now it's a bad bishop. So there's no huge, I guess you could say, rush to take it, because this knight stands fairly well also. But sometimes it's good, it kind of wrecks his pawn structure a little, and then it opens up this diagonal towards White's king. Okay, bishop to d3. So here the threat is to take here, and then that would double these pawns. So do I want to take right away here? What I have to consider is the safety to my king if I were to do that. So if I take here, and then he takes back, f takes e3, and then I castle, do I have to be worried about a kingside attack? And partly it's not right away, I don't think, partly just because this bishop and queen cover here. So castling is definitely an idea, or taking here is an idea. Right now, actually, I have to be careful, because if he takes here, this guy's undefended if I take back. So actually taking here makes a lot of sense. Actually, and I have a few tactical ideas too here. I can take here, because delaying castling in this case is kind of good, because this pawn center is locked. So if I'm taking here, and after he takes, then I actually have some options of maybe even taking one of these pawns, or taking a pawn here, because this knight is hanging. So I think I want to do that, and partly because I want to move this knight because of this threat on this pawn. Okay. So something that came up from our last move is now that, so notice this knight is hanging here. So can I grab a pawn, and after he takes back, then take a pawn myself? Or something like knight takes b4, and then if he tries to counter, actually he can't do it now, knight takes d5, because I can just take back with the knight. Okay, whereas if I do here, knight takes d4, and then he goes knight takes d5, then I have knight takes f3 check, and then taking back with the pawn here. So that's another option. Kind of like that. Let's double check here. So here's the part where I've made a few mistakes, and I have lost a few ratings points recently, about 100 ratings points in the last couple months here, because I've been playing some good moves, but then getting into a position where I make a silly mistake. And we'll have to make a video on how to reduce that, or the things I'm trying to do to reduce that. But let's take a look here. I think I can just go, let's see. So I'm looking at knight takes b4 or knight takes d4. Okay. I don't really like knight takes e5, because if he takes back with the knight, now this knight is in a nice position. But again, I do get this, so I do win a pawn here. So let's look at knight takes b4. Now if h takes b4, rook takes c3, and there's no checks on my king. So that looks okay. It looks like I just win a pawn. Knight takes b4. He also doesn't have an intermezzo move or an intermediate move here to take this pawn, because I could just take back with the knight. So that one looks okay. But let's quickly look at knight takes d4. Again, if he takes back with, taking back with the knight would probably be bad, because I would take here, and then now he's got these doubled e pawns. If he takes back with the e pawn, so knight takes e4, d4, e takes d4, then again rook takes c4 is good here. The only problem, why this seems inferior, is that over here I'm getting a pawn side majority, or a king. I'm sorry, a pawn majority, whereas here I'm actually fixing these pawns here. So I'm thinking knight takes b4 looks really good, and I don't see any reason not to play it. Now, if he plays something just totally ignoring it and to protect his rook, then I could maybe even look at knight takes d3 check, and then the threat to my king is lessened as well. So there's a lot of options here, but I think at the very least, I've won a pawn. Probably, I can see rook to c1 as a move here, with the idea that he can just protect this knight. But even there's some trouble, I think, because this pawn becomes weak. For example, I can play something like knight takes d3 check, and then after he takes back with the queen, bishop takes a3. And then if he plays something like knight takes d4 to unveil this queen, this rook is hanging here. So after he takes back, let's consider what I would think would be his most logical move, which would be h takes, or I'm sorry, a takes b4, actually, which is played. And here, now, one thing to note here, and I actually didn't see this in my calculations, but I probably should have, is this pawn is now hanging. But after I take this rook back, this pawn is hanging as well. And now he's in a little bit of, he doesn't have time to take this. Or actually, he might have time to take this, but I'll still be winning a pawn here. Um, okay, rook takes c3. Rook takes a7. Bishop takes b4. And of course, threatening a discovery. Okay. Um, so if he castles in that situation, then I'll want to play something that defends this pawn here. Um, and I could just play something like bishop, well, bishop to c6, but then does this rook get into any trouble? That's what I have to consider. Maybe not, because then I can always play rook here. But he might attack this bishop, say with the queen. Um, okay, so I have to think here. Rook takes c3. Actually, I'm going to take that, and then I'll have to do some of the calculations just because of the time. So this is one of those cases where I have to follow through. Well, actually, do I? I can play bishop takes b4, and then take this. It should transpose. But leaves my rook here. So bishop takes b4, and then if he castles, I'll take here because it's pinned right now. So bishop takes b4 or rook takes c3. Which one is better? I don't think there's a way to save this pawn. Bishop takes b4. If he castles, Then I take back with the bishop, attacking his rook. His rook takes here, and then I can play bishop to c6. Well, or maybe do something like queen to b6, attacking this rook again. Then I really have to think about castling after that. So I actually like. Let's see. Let's see if I. Hopefully, I'm not missing anything here. Bishop takes b4, pinning this knight, and the idea is he cannot protect it more, so he has to castle. And I think I just have to take, and the bishop is the best one to take with here. Now, note I haven't castled yet, and what that does for me is that it kind of protects me from getting attacked over here. However, because this side is opening up a little, I have to be very careful. Okay. Now, I had intended bishop to c6. Is that still good? I think I just have to make sure I have an escape path for this bishop. And I think I do. I can just play. So I'm going to take a couple moves here, but I can play this bishop over here. And then if he attacks this bishop, I can come back this way via b4 and then come back to e7 and then castle. So it's a little slower, but I remain a pawn ahead. Okay? And what it also does is it maintains I'm sorry, it keeps him from attacking over here right away. So right now I actually have to be very careful about castling on this side. Sometimes in some of these lines we play f5 to kind of block off here, but in this particular case it's not that great. But we'll see. The price of a pawn, I've given up a little bit of mobility here. Okay, so let's see. I think I need to activate this rook. The only problem with my play is that even though he's a pawn down, he's got this bishop coming in here, this knight potentially coming here, although I have it covered at the moment. And so I need to find a way to activate my other pieces. Okay, and probably on the queen side. So I think I'm going to go contest this here. And I think I can castle here because there is no, at the moment, there isn't a Greek gift sacrifice because my queen is covering the g5 square. And what I might want to do is take a couple moves to bring this bishop back and then castle, and then that way I could get both of my rooks into the game. And maybe that might have been better here than rook to a8. But even though this is a standard game on the internet, it is not really a it's not a very slow game. So I could even consider playing something like king to e7 here. But now, so here I have to watch out for this type of stuff. And fortunately, do I have a way to defend against it? So here, f7. So both of these are covered at the moment. But the question is, I think I need to defend f7. And then, but then if he plays knight takes f7, so this was maybe a problem with rook to a8. So rook to a8 might not have been the best here. Now, if I castle, he's going to get this free check-in, and actually, you just might just play queen to h5. So, um, this is something I should have looked at. I do not like the idea of knight takes f7 here because he can get over to this square, which would be kind of nasty. Castling is not a good idea at all. Rook to f8, not a great idea. What about something like, well, I was thinking like h6, let him take this pawn and then somehow counterattack, but getting this knight over here seems like a terrible idea. Um, Now, I could play something like f5. Then if he plays en passant, then I play g6. The only problem there, well, no, I can't because this pawn is hanging now. So got myself into a little trouble here with the rook to a8. So that looks like it was a blunder. Um, just trying to see if there's a way to save both pawns, and I don't know if there is. And if I castle, I think I'm just lost there because he plays bishop takes h7 check. I play g6 to save this pawn, and then if he plays rook here, I think I'm in trouble, guys. Now, what if I played my queen over to c8 to protect e6? And if he takes here with the knight, no, he's still threatening here. The other idea would be playing something like bishop to b4 now to cover this square. And then if he takes here with the bishop, then I come back bishop to e7. And he has to be careful because if he moves this knight, he's going to be in a little bit of trouble. So I'm giving him back the pawn, but defending myself from getting really run off the board here. So let's see here. Bishop to b4. So he could go rook takes, or knight takes, and then bishop takes. So let's look at those real quick. If he plays rook takes, then I think I just play h6. And then he's in a little bit of trouble. Well, no. Then maybe I play bishop. The problem if he takes with the rook. So getting back now to g6 being perhaps the move to make. Um, G6, I think, might be the move to make because his queen letting his queen get to h5 would be terrible. So that's what I'm going to actually do. My point is, I'm going to be giving up this pawn, but then if he takes with the knight, I can bring the bishop back this way, and that prevents him from going here. Okay, he's going to take with the knight, and actually, that's not good either. So I think I'm just losing here, guys. He's going to get here with check. Okay, I think I have to play here. He's going to get this guy in with check, and then I'm going to move my king up, and then if he exchanges here, that's okay. So actually, this might be okay. Okay, here. And now if he exchanges, he really has just even that is. So is that am I okay here? So my idea here is that material is actually even. Okay, and I think I want to take back here with the queen because I want to bring the king this way. I'm going to play my bishop over here. See now, well, the reason why I want to do it too now this knight has to go this way. So this might get a little tricky pretty soon. He actually doesn't have to move this knight right away, but I am going to threaten it with bishop to b4 if I get the chance. I mean, you can try to attack this pawn, perhaps. I mean, I guess there's a few ways to go here. Um, I didn't want to take with the king here because I was afraid of a queen check over here and then coming in here. I wanted to play this queen here to cover this file. However, if he does move his queen to attack this pawn, I might need to move my queen over here. Okay, so that's what he's going to do. And actually, do I just have bishop to e1? Because he's not taking here with check. Well, he can check me here, but then I can just. No, he can't check me here. What about bishop to e1? Because he has no way of defending this square here. I like that. So that could be a mistake here, which wouldn't be possible if he played queen to b1, but he wanted to attack this at the same time. Bishop to e1 threatening check here. Might be my best shot here, guys. Let's go it. Bishop to e1. Now if he goes knight takes, then I come in here with a queen check. So he's got to play something like h3, maybe? And I still have a couple moves to make because I can play the queen check here. Then take here, for example. So kind of double-edged, but I'm going to try to play a little quicker because I'm low on time and make sure that I don't lose this on time. We can see how quickly the game can turn turn around where I thought I had a comfortable game, and then I let my opponent back in because of that I did not foresee some of the tactics. Okay, so here he's threatening this discovery. Um, so what I think I have to do here, I think I have to check him, and I can't mate him here on F1 because of this guy. But what I can do, can I check him with the bishop, and when he goes in the corner, I don't have time for that. Oh, here's an idea. Queen to F2 check, king to H1 is forced, and then bishop to B4, attacking the queen and also threatening mate here on E1. Oh no, I can't do that because he could just take the. Sorry, he can just take that, can't he? Or I can do this check, and then after the king moves, just move my king out of the way. Or do this check. Is that which one's better? Okay, queen to F2 check, king goes to H1, and just move my king out of the way, maybe. And then he doesn't have a check right away. Hmm. Let's let's do that. We're running out of time, so I have to make some quick, very quick decisions here. Okay, what's the best square to go to? I think here. I do have some issues in this position, but very least, he could just move his knight over, of course. Well, no, he can't. Can't really move it. Basically, I'm trying to prevent myself from getting mated. I guess that's the bottom line here, guys. Um, this is a situation where if I had all the moves in the world, he does have a lot of weaknesses, and I have some counterplay here. But he has, I have some weaknesses as well in these dark squares. And later, when I analyze this game, we're going to have to see what I could have done to improve my situation. Okay, so here he's threatening this mate. Um, and is there any way? So I'm going to let him get this check in probably because I cannot. prevent it. Um, but the key for me is there a way to avoid getting checkmated here? I don't think taking here with the um, well, actually, can I just what if I just go ahead and take or go ahead and play my bishop to d2, threatening mate myself, and then after he checks me here, go down here and he can check me with his knight. I could just scooch over here. He can then check me with his queen, scooch over here, and then after one more check, scooch over. Do I have a way out? It's going to be slippery, but maybe, maybe, or maybe I just need to take his. Do I take his? Take his knight first. Okay, I'm running out of time, so let's let's just try this and see if I can somehow escape. Okay, and it's possible that I can't, but oh, actually, my calculations here, my bishop is covering this square here, so there's no knight check. So I might be able to just escape here. Okay, so queen over there. I'm going to run this way, away from. Okay, and so I take, he takes back, and I take this guy, and I'm going to go up and get this guy next, or this guy, one of those guys. So actually, this should be winning for me, but I have less than a minute to play. So let's see. I'm going to be blitzing out these next few moves here. Okay. Hmm, okay. Okay. Losing a piece here. Okay, I'm just moving back here so I don't have to worry about these checks. Um, and again, I probably lost this game, but I wanted to see if there was. I mean, I do have two pawns for the piece. Fortunately, it might not be enough. Interesting. So I'm going for this here. Again, there's no thinking right now, so I'll go back and take a look at it shortly. Okay, I'm going to bring my knight around. If I can grab both of those pawns, it'll be very difficult for him to win. He'll probably bring his knight back here, but that's okay. Now I don't want to check his king because I don't want to give him any tempos to move here. All right. So what I'm going to do here is attack that guy, and he goes back. Oh shoot. Um, okay, actually that's okay. I made a little mistake, but okay. And here it's a draw, or should be a draw if he takes this. If he goes elsewhere, then yep. Okay, guys, that was a crazy game. Went from slight advantage to disadvantage. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at some of the areas here and do a little quick analysis. And then on my own, I'll have to do some more analysis later. Okay, but I hope you enjoyed the play there. It got a little exciting for me at the end. I know a lot of mistakes were made, but hopefully you enjoyed the effort. Okay, here we are back looking at some of the moves of the game, and very instructive this first position. So here's the position where I decided to sacrifice a knight in order to discover this attack on the knight here on c3. And I had made the decision to go here, attacking on b4. The problem here is that after a takes b4, then white is going to take this pawn here, and we could see that these open lines get me into a little bit of trouble later in the game. One other nuance, although I don't think this is I think this is a fine move. The analysis shows that it seems to be decent also. The other move here, at first I rejected it because I thought this and then this, even though I'm a pawn up, his pawn structure is a little better here. However, what it does is it does keep these pawns intact. It limits the scope of this rook. So I thought that was one thing that definitely I could analyze a little more, but maybe should have looked a little more into that consideration before playing the move I did. But again, I think the move I played in the game was fine at this point. So let's go ahead and look at the next another key position. Okay, here's the second position, and this is where I made the what I now deem to be a blunder of playing rook to a8 because my opponent punished me by moving. The problem is when I played that, let me just show you that, he took here and then it moved my queen from protecting this important g5 square, and that's something I should have considered during the game. So with that in mind, couple moves I think would have been a lot better. Here I have a slight advantage. I have an extra pawn, but my opponent does have some compensation in the form of this open diagonal. He's got also, I'm sorry, this open file, as well as this half open file here that he already had. So one idea would be to castle here, and because would be a little difficult for him to attack right away because my queen is here on this covering this g5 square. And I could play h6 at some point. So that would have been a fine move. And then I think another one, which I talk about during the game a little bit, is just bringing that bishop back. So just kind of tidying up my loose ends here. And then if he wants to, let's say he moves his rook here in order to attack down this file, or just maybe doubling on this file, then I could just bring this bishop back. Now this covers this g5 square, and now I can move this rook around. Okay, so definitely would have been a lot better than what I played in the game. And this is, I do a lot of my analysis. I did check some of this with the engine, but I do a lot of my analysis without the chess engine. And if you're wondering where do you start there, you look for those positions where you either know you made a mistake or you suspect you make a mistake, and then you kind of play around with what you did. And the idea here with doing that is that you're not always going to get maybe the most optimal move, but it's helping you to think for yourself. It's practicing that critical thinking, which is definitely a part of chess. Okay, so bishop to b4 definitely would have been better than rook to a8 in this position, or even castling. I like the idea of not castling right away, though, because he does have those forces kind of pointed towards my king side. Okay, the final position I wanted to show you today was at the end. So after trading off queens, I actually have an advantage with my pawns here. I'm about to take these pawns, but I do have less than a minute on my clock during the game. And so I made the fatal error of taking on d4. And then he forked here and wins this guy, okay? And luckily, fortunately, I was able to come back and draw the game. However, had I noticed that potential fork, and so in your games, as long as you're not playing blitz or you're not in time trouble, you should always be looking at your opponent's checks, captures, and threats. So I've looked at this potential threat or this potential check here, and instead of taking on d4 like I did during the game, I could have played something very simple like this. And in this case, you would not be able to protect this pawn, and that would have secured my advantage, and I should, had I had enough time, gone on to win this game. We learned something every day, and I thought this was a very interesting game, even though I did not come out victorious. Sometimes these are the best games to learn from, though, when you make these mistakes. But I was pleased that I was able to keep my wits about me in time trouble and come back to win it. Now, one thing to note there, too, is I think my opponent also played very quickly because he was trying to get me off my game. So when you are the one who does not have time trouble, it's very important for you to try to make your best moves, because there was a point in the game after I lost that piece where my opponent did have the advantage and probably should have won it. So anyways, good lessons all around, especially for me. I hope you enjoyed it as well. And maybe in the comments, tell me about a time that you came back from a losing, tell us about a time that you came back from a certain defeat and the lessons you learned from that. Share that in the comments below, and I'll talk to you soon. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed the little change of pace. We will still occasionally do the tactics videos on Fridays to help you give that kind of interactive tactics workout. But I did want to change it up a little bit for today, and also try to kind of do some real-time thinking and show you how I try to improve my game systematically by practicing certain, or trying to emphasize little habits while I'm playing. So a lot of things happened in this game. Some of them were good, some of them were bad, but even when I made those mistakes, the key is to try to learn from them and what you could do to improve for your future games. With that, because that's part of training, and that's what this channel is about, is to discuss training and to help you get better, and for those who are new to the channel, to really help you to become the hero of your own chess story by improving the way you train, improving your chess knowledge, so that you can perform your best at the chessboard. So subscribe if you want to see more topics about that, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in a future video.